kind of weird that I'm making the video at my house, but I wanted to make this video before I get too far along in unpacking all my stuff, and kind of just go through what did I bring in my bag, just kind of take my bag apart and sort of decide, was it valuable to bring or wasn't it valuable to bring? It's sort of a reflective, like, what would you do better? I think people that like to do backpacking, a lot of times they are constantly reflecting on what to bring, what not to bring. You know, when you have to carry your pack wherever you go, you really want to make sure you bring the things that matter and not bring things that don't matter, because it adds up the weight, and that kind of changes how much you were able to do, perhaps, how far you can go. So anyways, I think everybody goes through putting a lot of thought into what they do when they go backpacking. So I just kind of wanted to do a backpack go through, if you will. So anyways, we'll just start with this outside here. I have my tent usually strapped on here, and usually just putting these straps on is enough to keep my tent in place. And this time it kept falling off, but so within my tent, I mean, it's pretty much what it is. I bring it, I needed it, it was useful, so no regrets, would bring it again. I would maybe change slightly the stakes I have, but I was pretty happy with that too. I've already kind of picked out the stuff for my tent, so, and I'll probably open this up and air it out and clean it out and better than I could at the campsite. I mean, if you wait for your bottom of your tent to dry, you'll be waiting all morning sometimes, and you just got to get on with other things. So sometimes you roll your tent up wet from condensation, even if not from rain. And I don't like to store it wet because all these folds, you'll get mold and stuff. So it's good to like air out your gear and kind of go through your gear when you get home so that you know it's ready. Anyways, I'll put this over here because this was good to bring, and I would bring it again. I wore this hat. I was pretty happy I chose this hat just because it's very breathable, and bring it again. You need something to keep the sun off your face. I brought a mask that I was keeping in my pocket, and I wouldn't normally bring a mask, but because of COVID-19, it's just good to have one around, and it's pretty much not a big issue for me. I mean, I put it on when I feel like other people would like me to put it on. When you're outside hiking and you really don't wear a mask a lot, but even in the very back country of the wilderness area, there were people who had masks on and were putting them up. And I kind of find it to be really exceptionally restrictive when you're doing like physical exertion and you're trying to breathe a lot. It's hard to suddenly want to like cover your mouth and restrict your airflow, and it just makes it a little harder and hotter. And so often what I'll do, because if I have mine in my pocket, I will just kind of like step away, don't look at people, or, you know, I like to talk to people, so I try to talk. I always try to announce myself on the trail before I get there by saying hello and not startle people or scare them. People get a little startled sometimes if I'm quiet, and you know, so I think that if like you have it on, it's just really quick. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll just go like this, and in my opinion, this is just as effective as wearing this. So, you know, I'm always wearing a shirt, so it's like I'm always wearing something that I can use as a mask, or I'll even just simply hold my breath and try not to say hello and talk as I go right past somebody. Just go, I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to do if you're just passing by someone really quickly on the trail. It's not like being in a theater or something where you're sitting next to somebody and you're gonna be like exchanging particles for quite a bit. There's a good airflow and UV light and all that jazz out there in the wilderness. So anyways, I brought the mask. I'm gonna go through this top pouch here of what I keep in here. This is actually a lot less than I normally put in here. I keep my flashlight in there because it's good to keep it somewhere handy, you know, where you know it's gonna be. This is just my bike light, and I like it because it's a lithium one, and someday I'll get another headlamp. I keep this Garmin Explorer Plus. I just got this year, and I was texting back and forth with my wife, kind of giving her updates about where I am and how it's going. And nice thing is she's able to communicate back to me and just get a little reassurance that everything's going all right. And I think this has made me feel a lot more comfortable about going out on my own, having a mode to communicate and get communication back and forth. And if it's got the SOS thing, I can reach out to somebody. I use the map feature a few times also, and the altimeter, and that's just kind of a toy to play with. But yeah, I do actually kind of like having the GPS map too, to kind of get exactly where you are. I've never had a GPS before. I've always just really relied on studying maps and trying to learn trails. But you know, you kind of sometimes find trails that aren't on maps, and that's can throw you off. Like if you think you know the trails and then all of a sudden there's another one and you didn't expect it to be there, and then you're kind of doubting which direction which to go, you know, this could be helpful. And it's a compass, so there's a lot of good reasons to bring it. I would bring it again, definitely gonna bring it. My wallet I brought with me because you need a driver's license to drive there legally and all that. And cash is always a really valuable thing to keep in case you have a problem. I like to keep some cash. I don't leave this in the car. I take it with me. When you leave valuables in the trailhead at the car, you're kind of asking for trouble. You're giving people reasons to break into your car, you know. This is the map I brought this time. I actually folded my keys up into it because, and I take as few keys as I can because, you know, keys are metal and they weigh something. But I folded my keys up into it because I didn't want to scratch the screen in this up. And I keep this all in a plastic bag so that it's sort of watertight in case anything like happens to rain, you know. Just I have a couple of extra plastic bags around. I'm just using this map right now of, and that's where I went, of the Olympic from the National Forest Service, and it's a pretty neat picture on this side too. You know, all the national parks come with a map when you go to them, and I just like maps. But I like this one because it's small, and I have a hiking map that's bigger, but it actually doesn't have any more or less trails than this little map does. And this map has the whole peninsula. My other map doesn't. It just does the park. It doesn't have the national forests. And that's, I kind of want a map that has everything in one. And I did get one, but it doesn't do the topography as well, and it's really large. And when I unfold it, it's like this big, and you gotta flip it over if you want to see the other side. So if like you're just looking at this section of the map, and you got all this map, so the kind of the thing I have found is no one map does it all. So you know, just try to have some kind of reference tools so that like if you are at trail junctions and things, you can kind of like figure out where you're going. You should carry a map about where you're going. So there's that. This is the top of my bag, in which I put all this small kind of like odds and ends, maybe, I don't know, how you organize your bag is up to you and all that. But I like this top piece. This usually like straps on here. And one thing I like about this Osprey backpack is that this comes off and it has a strap. So I could put this on, like, wear it kind of like a fanny pack, if you will. That's what I think of as like a big fanny pack. Or I can adjust the strap, and it's kind of a one strap pack. I'm gonna call it my man purse, if you will. But it's just nice to have that as a sort of detachable option, to have a small bag, you know, like if you're camping and you want to leave this bag and just use this to carry a minimal amount of stuff. I like having that as a sort of option with this bag. Over here in the side pocket here is where I keep my fancy stuff, and so I had my bear spray. Oops. And well, I actually think I probably don't need this. I mean, I hope we really never use it. I'm always carrying it. I do think, I guess it's important to have. It weighs something, you know, so like, no one, where I go hiking, no one has ever been attacked by a bear, which is pretty cool and sort of reassuring to think like, wow, that's just never happened. But there are also cougars there, and I'm like, in the last hike I went, me and my wife actually saw a very large, probably 250-pound cougar in that valley. So they're there, even if you don't see them, they're animals there. Anyways, I would bring this again, so I'll put this in the bring again pile. I have a fillet knife that I bring because I think it has a nice blade for the kinds of things I like to do, and it's fairly light, and I would bring this again as well, probably. It's just because it's not as weigh much, and I believe that you should have some kind of a knife when you're camping, some kind of cutting tools. When you're backpacking, for me at least, I always view my backpack as like my bat pouch, if you will. Like, this is my super pack, and that allows me to like do things I wouldn't otherwise be able to do because of these tools that I have. I keep the water. This water is my water container, and I keep it over on this side or somewhere else more centered in my bag so that the weight isn't sloshing. And I would bring this again because I need water. I keep in this pouch on the front, kind of accessible, is my water filter kit, and I like to keep it here because you end up filtering water quite a bit. Like several times a day, I will probably have to stop and filter water. It's easier to filter and than to carry all your water you're going to need. I mean, realistically, without a filter of some sort, you'll take a chance drinking the water or getting sick, but it really makes it like, I don't know, you can only get so far without water. You know, like, I would not be able to get to the places I get to without having a filter. I definitely would bring this large bag again. That was useful. I think instead of bringing the small one, I would bring a second large one, just because the weight difference is really not that much. So maybe this I would not bring again. I'll put it over here, and I would just bring two of these. I have another old one, and I always bring two bags just as a backup. If I was really desperate, you could probably put that right in the stream and drink right from the stream through you just siphoning it. I think it works too. So this is about as basic as you can get for a filter, and that's part of why I like it. It's just simple and it's cheap. Like, I recommend the larger one though. They have a smaller sort of filter, but it takes longer for the water to flow through it, and you'll spend more time filtering water, squeezing the bag, and trying to get the water through. So I like the large one. It comes with a kit, but a few other things. So, and I keep it in this plastic bag just to put something in. I kind of keep it clean in my bag, you know. I mean, this part gets dirty here, but you want to keep this as clean as possible. this is your water. You don't want to get water. I particularly keep my like toiletry type stuff in a different area of my bag. It's kind of hard to keep things completely separate in your backpack because it's only so many pockets, but I don't like those two items. I don't like to put together. So I put it in the front pouch, keep it accessible. Water filter is critical. Definitely would bring it again. I don't go on any hikes without a water filter. Opening up the bag, I've got this bag, which is just something that our neighbors, we bought a magic bullet from the rummage sale, and this is a magic bullet bag, and I wanted to bring this one because it had a zipper, but the zipper came apart, and I like the idea that it could zip. And it's just kind of nice to take all your loose items and put them in something. I mean, you could cut like ounces from not bringing a bag like this, but then you're gonna have like all your stuff kind of falling around in your bag, and when you go to get your food or something, and you're always gonna be like, you do a lot of packing and repacking of your backpack when you're backpacking. So I would bring this bag again, and also if you want to like hang something, it's nice to have something you hang. And part of why I wanted to zip is because then animals will have a little harder time getting into it, maybe. I have a plastic bag that I put clothes in. Like I would put maybe I would replace this with just a plastic bag in sometime, because you want to keep a layer so you can keep things dry. So even if my bag gets wet, my clothes will stay dry. So I would bring just this plastic bag. Just seemed like a good size for recycling. I have all these clothes. Which ones that I use and would I bring them again? Bag for backpacking, I would bring this. For day hike, no. I had this fleece and a sweater that I brought, which is maybe overkill, but that's my style. And I would definitely bring the sweater again because it's got a hoodie and it zips up and it's got the arms. And I did use this. I put this on at night, and I actually had my hat on at night, and then I still had this on too, and I used it. It was good. It's good to have a warm sweater. This fleece for this particular trip, I don't know if I would have brought this again. It's nice to have a lot of extra warm stuff, so I'm gonna put it over here, and I probably wouldn't have brought that. Too much clothes. I always bring too much clothes. Gloves, I didn't use them, but I like to have them, and I like to keep them with my winter hat, which I used. This I used. I would bring both these again. I brought some extra fluffy old, kind of wore out, but they're like Merino wool socks, and I like to put these on at night because they're a little fluffier and keep my feet warm, and I lose a lot of heat through my feet. So I would bring these again probably for backpacking. It's just nice to be comfortable and warm at night. I brought these insulated pants, and these have kind of been a good level of insulation. I have thicker ones and I have thinner ones. These are kind of my medium strength insulated pants, and I bring them. They're comfortable to change into something that's gonna stretch and just be comfortable laying at night, and it adds one more layer for warmth. So I would bring these again. I'm gonna put the clothes together over here. Clothes end up being a lot. I brought this sort of spandexy polyester, just cheap insulated shirt, and I actually had two of these, and I just was thinking maybe I'd want to change my shirt, you know, and have something clean for one for each day. And I actually would not bring this again because I don't think that it really provided that much utility to have extra. And I had 3 pairs of underwear, which I want to keep my underwear kind of clean because, you know, you don't want to get a rash or something. Like that sort of stuff happens when you're sweating a lot and like your skin is rubbing a lot and stuff. Like you don't want to get a rash, and that could cause you to like have an open sore or something, you know, or whatever, just discomfort. On a longer trip, I would probably take one extra pair, not three total. So maybe having one extra pair. I'm a big boxer person. It's kind of for guys, but I like these because I went got these just for backpacking because they're breathable material is a polyester. It's hydrophobic. It doesn't really want to like hold water. I pretty much don't bring anything cotton except hankies. Um, and the hydrophobic is nice for all your clothes. You don't want anything that kind of holds water. Like so, wool, polyesters are really good materials for hiking. And I got this because it just helps with the chafage when you're like my thighs will rub together, and I don't really like that. So that reduces that. It acts like a barrier between my legs, so I don't get as much irritation when I'm hiking. And but yeah, normally I don't wear boxer briefs, but I do when I hike. And I have my raincoat, which is sort of just like another warm layer. And this is just a sort of cheapo Frogs and Togs raincoat, and it is made from polyester. It's just a type of polymer and polypropylene. So like the material itself is hydrophobic, and it's very lightweight, and that's why I like these raincoats. And it was cheap to get, and it does the job. It breaks wind a little bit too, so it can be kind of like an outer shell and just sort of a final barrier to try to like keep the elements and wind and water away from you more. It will also trap moisture in, which is kind of a problem with any raincoat, is that for all moisture you keep out, you also keep moisture in. So there's always a trade-off of breathability with rain gear. And I would definitely bring this again. I always keep it in my bag. I just get a sense of comfort knowing that I have one line of defense against water, and being too cold. And if you get wet, you're going to lose your heat a lot faster than if you're dry. And hypothermia is something you have to kind of keep in the back of your mind, even in places in the middle of summer. You can get hypothermia. These are just the pants for it that go with it. And I kind of just have them as a kit. And I would bring this again. I'm not going to take time to put it all back together, but I like to keep them in this cow bag. It's just a nice size bag for that, to kind of compartmentalize my gear. The other clothes I have that I brought, this was the long sleeved insulated shirt I bring. It's pretty rank. I didn't want to wash or take my backpack too far apart at this point, but it is what I like to use. It's somewhat breathable. I mean, I'm not crazy about it being black because black will absorb a lot of heat, but sometimes that's an advantage, you know, if you're cold and you want some heat. But I like this as a just kind of basic layer. It doesn't hold sweat. It dries out pretty quick, and I like that. Oh, that's smelly. I always bring a couple of hankies, and for this particular trip, I brought 2 red hankies, and somewhere around here is the blue hanky. And I was keeping the GoPro. I just put it in here and I wrap it, and I put my GoPro in here just to kind of protect the lens and keep it clean. And I use the blue because it sort of color coordinates. Like, this is the GoPro one. Don't wipe your nose with it. Don't put it on your head and get grease from my skin that gets onto the lens, and then all that. So I would bring this again. I would bring these hankies again. It's nice to have a couple. I like the red because it's flashy, and you know, red stands out. So if you kind of want people to see you, you can use a red coloring. I would bring it again. 2 hankies might have been enough, but I mean, they're really not that much. And this is my towel and everything. And so I'll probably bring these again. These are the pants I use, and between these and my insulated pants, and I have 3 layers, so it would be, this would be a first layer I could add if I want to maximize warmth, and then I could put this over it, and that would be another layer, and then this could be a final layer. That would be 3 layers, and that would probably be pretty warm if I ever needed like extreme cold temperatures to warm up. I would put those stuff on, and they're zip off, so I liked that they kind of are 2-in-1. They're shorts and their pants, and I wear these a lot, and honestly I've had trouble finding good quality ones where the stitching is good. Like these can be made really cheap, so they break the first time you spread your legs. It'll just right down the middle, and I've had better quality ones, and this is something I would spend a bit more on. Both Columbia and REI have been brands that have held up a long time. If you get a tight knit polyester, mosquitoes have a hard time getting through that too, which is kind of a nice advantage. So these were my pants. This is my outer shirt, and I always use this shirt just because I like all the pockets it's got, and it's kind of just made for hiking. And I like that it has a zip pocket, so I can kind of close and keep things contained. As the back is a little bit of a breathable flap, which I don't really use, but maybe it helps. And it's getting a little worn out, and the material is starting to have a little more like permeability, but it used to be a pretty good barrier. I probably should work on getting some new nylon pants and a shirt, but you know. And then this is where my underwear I used, and they're good. They're smelly. They're bad. I would bring at least 1 pair of underwear again. I'm not gonna hike commando. I did encounter one time a guy hiking in only a loincloth. He was definitely going for lightweight. And he was out hiking us. But you know, each to their own. I brought 3 pairs of socks. So these are the 2 that I used, and plus this warm pair that I can sleep in at night. 2 could probably be enough. I would say you should not get cheap on the socks, because if your feet get blisters or kind of start to get kind of not taking care of your feet, that's a real problem. Like you need to keep your feet dry and working good for you, because they're what carries you in and out. And if your feet are not, like if they're wet and you can't put on a dry pair of socks, then you got a problem. If you have 2, you can at least like wash one in a stream and get it cleaner, and then that can dry while you're wearing another pair. But often things don't dry real fast, so you know, and I'm sure there's like fancier socks and stuff than this, but these are just some cheap polyester like socks I get. And I would bring these 2 pairs of socks. A belt I have to bring because my pants won't stay up without a belt. That's just the reality of my life. So, and this is just the belt I have, and it's the belt I like. I would bring it again. I think that's it for clothes. Yeah, here's the 3rd pair of socks. You know, I mean, 3 pairs of socks, some people might say is too much. Plus a pair at night, so that'd be 4 total, I guess. But for me, socks don't weigh that much. You know, that's not what's holding me back or anything. I keep my toilet paper inside of this bag, and I know some people aren't comfortable with this idea, but this is actually the teepee that I had from my campsite. I'm gonna get rid of that now, rather than leaving it there. It's really pretty easy to pick it up, and poop is not that gross. Like, get over it. It's your own poop. Like, you can pack out your toilet paper at least. It's just put it in a bag and forget about it, and it's not that gross. And then everybody else who camps there doesn't have to look at your ass wipe, because that kind of like, well, it maybe isn't like a huge problem environmentally. It's very unsightly, and people don't go to the wilderness to see other people's toilet paper. They go there because they want to see less impact on the environment. And I practice the leave no trace principle. Like, try to leave it as best you can for the people going forward. If you can, even maybe pick up some other people's stuff. I won't pick up other people's toilet paper. Like, I don't know. For those people out there, there are people that do clean up other people's toilet paper, and like there are park rangers and volunteers who go out and pick up trash. So, you know, try, and that's kind of controversial. I don't want to get into it right now. This is about my backpack. Anyways, that I'm not gonna put in the pile. I would bring it, keep it, but I mean that's something altogether different. Anyways, I always keep a small roll of toilet paper, and I keep it in a bag with a little bit of a small bottle of alcohol just to kind of use on my hands. And I fold this up, and I kind of not bury it too far in my bag, because when I wake up, I gotta go, and I don't want to sit and look for my toilet paper if I have to go, or an emergency, you know, like it comes on fast. And but I also try to keep it away from where I store my water. So I definitely would bring something. I mean, you could probably make do with what you could find in your environment, but you know, if everybody's wiping their butt with stuff and they're camping, and then there's gonna be a lot less of that kind of material out there in the wilderness very quickly. The Thermarest air mat was useful. It added a level of comfort, and this is a pretty good R value, so it keeps me pretty warm. And I like this one. It was small. I should probably open it up and just let it dry and air out a little bit. You're supposed to store them inflated. If you have the self-inflating kind, that sort of just helps them. That's the way they say from the company to store them. And there's the foam fold-up ones I've noticed are really popular too. I've never really had those. I mean, I had a cheaper like one, but it kind of lost its foaminess over time, and like it really, I didn't even get 1 year out of it. So, and my wife had a Thermarest, and hers original Thermarest we bought like 6 years ago. She still uses it, and it's never popped, and it just, we've had ones that have had pops in them and stuff, and you patch them, they're patchable. And it was just way more comfortable. Like, I borrowed it one time to go camping, and immediately I was like sold. I was like, yes, totally worth it. For me, some people might not bring something like this just to cut weight, you know, like, and sleep on the ground. And but for me, like, getting a good night's sleep can really and make the overall experience better, and staying warm and having a little bit of cushioning. When I was a kid and I was younger, I just laid on the ground. But as I get older, this is sort of like one thing I will put a little extra into. So I would really recommend these self-inflating mats. A little bug stuck to it. And it's worth it for me. Bring it. And it comes with a bag, and in this bag I have stuck a little patch just in case I get a leak and patch. But if it did leak, I probably would be alright. It does add warmth too if you insulate it from the ground you're laying on. And then there's my sleeping bag, and this was a good choice sleeping bag for this trip. It was the right amount of insulation I needed, and I like that this bag packs down a little smaller than my other bag does, and it was worth it bringing it. It's hard to get these things back in there. I don't know, that's one of my least favorite parts of packing up, is putting this stuff back in there. But, and sleeping bags aren't real expensive. So this is the 35-40 degree bag. Oops, I guess sometimes I say things and then I find out later that I was off or wrong, and whatever, I'll get better about it. I bring it again, and the bag it goes in. This is a bag, or a liner that goes over your whole bag. This is not waterproof from the factory, and if your bag gets wet, all your gear gets wet, and it gets heavy, and if your stuff is wet and you're in colder conditions, you got a problem if like you need, it's nice to have things dry that like if you get wet you can get something dry out, or like your sleeping bag and your sleeping gear won't be wet. You can kind of rely on it to be dry place to sleep comfortable and warm. So this is pretty light and it stretches out and will go around the whole bag and kind of act like a rain shield. And it probably could be used for some other things too, but I bring these now just as another rain guard for my backpack because, you know. Let's see what's in here. I brought a book to read, and currently I am reading The Mammoth Hunters by Jean M. Amuel. And it's a really great book. And I did read it, and it's a little heavy to bring a book that's 700 and something pages. But for me, the fact that I was able to just lay down and read for a couple hours on my trip was kind of nice, and I just enjoy that. So it was worthwhile bringing this, and you know, the paper could be useful for something. I mean, this is a cheap paperback, so you know, like if I was going on a really long backpacking trip, maybe I would kind of use the pages as I went for other things. I mean, you could get creative about what you would use the paper in here for if you wanted to, other than reading. And then it's motivation to read and it's entertainment. So I would bring that. I enjoyed it. I brought this whistle. I didn't use it actually, but I kind of like having it there just in case I do want to use it. But in this particular backpacking trip, I would say maybe I should have left it at home just to cut weight a little more. I didn't use it. It wasn't essential. A rope. I brought this rope because I wasn't sure if I was going to have to hang my food or not. And to keep it away from bears, hanging it in a tree. And I might not bring it again in the future. I mean, this isn't enough rope to hold my weight, but this would be enough for a lot of things. And if I doubled it up or tripled it up, it could maybe hold my weight. I wouldn't trust this for climbing or anything like that. Like, I'm not going to use this for climbing. So this is probably one where I would say I wouldn't bring it again. I brought it this time because the bear barrel was kind of new to me, and I guess I was kind of not, I'm used to hanging my food, and you can't hang a food without a rope. And I guess I'm going to start getting used to just keeping my food more on the ground in a bear barrel. And yeah, so I don't know if I bring this again. It was a bit extra weight. I might just take a section of it instead of bringing the whole thing. And, you know, so depending on the context of what I'm doing, I might bring a rope, I might not. This is my first aid kit, and I would definitely bring it again. I took a few things out of it this time. Like a lot of times I will keep a fingernail clippers in my first aid, and just for weight. I have a tweezers with a magnifying glass. That's sort of a thing you could start a fire with, right? And then also it's got the tweezers, so you can get out splinters if you get a splinter. And I have some anti-inflammatories, just some pain relievers. Those are always useful. I actually did use one. I was hoping it would help with just kind of my congestion I was having. I keep some gloves in case you need to clean a wound and it's hard to get your hands clean. You know, gloves are just kind of a useful barrier. You can use them for something else too. I got this on a plane. It's just an antiseptic towelette, and I will keep this in here just to kind of provide like a cleaner. I keep some paper towels, some gauze, band-aids, a little triple antibiotic, and some tape to kind of wrap things up. Just some very basic first aid. Oftentimes I'll also have a cord that I can use to like make one of those tourniquet type things. I'm not really like very knowledgeable about giving first aid. That's something that sort of I know I would like to learn more about, is taking some wilderness first aid courses. and learning more about that and getting maybe some certifications in that, but that costs some money and time, and I'm getting there eventually. That is on the radar for me. I also have a safety whistle, compass, magnifying glass, thermometer. Just, it's got a lot of things in one, so I bring it because, you know, why rely on digital equipment completely for everything? And it can be kind of nice to know the temperature. I've been in places where it was 30 degrees in the morning, and then by noon it was already over 100. So sometimes when it's a really dry heat, it sneaks up on you really fast, and next thing you know, you're overheating or something. So it's kind of nice to have a more objective way to sense the environment and just like, oh, it's 60, 70-ish degrees. So I bring first aid always. This is my bug net. I keep it in a bag just because it protects it from getting ripped or something, because a holy bug net don't work so good. And this is like a last line of defense. This is not for fashion. Like, I don't know anybody that puts these on to look good or because they want to have a net in their face. This is about keeping bugs away from you, and bugs can really ruin a good trip. I've had situations where I've camped by like Lake Superior and there were black flies just flying around our head constantly, and then there were hornets like going after the black flies, so that you have all these black flies you're killing to get away from you or something, and then the hornets are attracted to the flies, and like, it's just, or mosquitoes. They can just pack. Mosquitoes here aren't real bad, so I actually very rarely use this, but I just like knowing it's there. With the long sleeves and everything, that's enough usually to stop most mosquitoes. Let's see, it's the pouch here. It's now empty. This is a 70-liter bag, so this isn't like something you'd bring for a day hike. This is something that's kind of made for backpacking. It has multiple points of access and pockets. The only thing I don't really like about this bag is that the waist straps, even tighten down as much as possible. I have to pretty much cinch this down as tight as I can get it to, you know, like, my waist is not small, but for some reason, I wish that these were a little bit tighter. And I also wish there were pockets right here. On my other backpack, there are pockets right on the hip strap. So that kind of like is nice to have things accessible, you know, like a camera and such. And it doesn't have that. And I think I might try to come up and make something for this, and just that way it's a bag that I want more, you know, to what I want. Having a little, like, I can make a little, sew something on here. And I recommend always going with a bag that has something that kind of puts the weight on your hips. You can kind of move the weight around throughout the day. You can put it on your hips more, you can put it on your shoulders more. You kind of make adjustments as you go, so you get the weight where you want it to be. It can make it a little more manageable or give certain muscle groups a break. This is a place where I really have to think a lot about my weight, is the food. And I kind of like the bear barrel, because I was already putting all my food in a bag anyways, and now this just serves as that bag. / it works for helping with bears. Obviously I bring the bag. How would you carry all this stuff in your arms up a mountain? I don't know. You would have to be one of those primitive survivalists. Which is cool, but that's what I'm doing this about right now. Anyways, for this particular bear belly, you push on these little tabs, and apparently, you know, like, bears wouldn't be able to do that, so supposedly, unless there was a super smart bear. And then you unscrew it, and it comes off. And this is a place where I would go, I don't know if I brought too much food for my trip. It's kind of nice to know that I can bring more supplies than I need and still be able to accomplish all the goals that I did on my hike. Like, having more stuff, things that I shouldn't have brought, didn't keep me from accomplishing what I wanted to do. So, and in certain situations, I might need more stuff. Like if I'm camping in the winter, I would need more warm stuff, perhaps. And now it's nice to know that I can carry that if I did. A loaf of bread, you know, it is kind of nice to have a sandwich now and then, but I don't eat a ton of and density plastic. That's supposed to not be crushable. I'm a bear trying to get in here. Seems to work. Anyways, so in review, this is the stuff I bring. Things I wouldn't bring, not much I would change actually. I wouldn't bring these sardines. I wouldn't bring this rope. I wouldn't bring this bread. I would bring a different bag instead of this one, so this kind of goes in the middle. I wouldn't bring a few extra pieces of clothes that I brought, but really, like, I think I did overall pretty good job packing for this trip, and I would probably bring a lot of the same gear again. So this is my backpack, and this is sort of my glasses. I brought glasses. And then I had a phone, but I left it in my car, and now the phone is broke. Whatever. So maybe this is good kind of reflective process to pull my gear out and kind of look at it, and I'll go through it and open it up and clean it out and kind of unpack, you know, reverse packing my hike. So it's good to go through your gear sometimes and take care of it. All right. Have a good day.